You don't need to resign to start a business.
Welcome to BPO and Beyond. This is where we talk about earning more through your career, building something of your own, and putting your money to work. All of it pointed at one goal: financial freedom. Until the day you get to say the two words we're all working toward: I'm free. All right, let's get started.
So a lot of people actually at work is asking me how can I do stuff or how can I have businesses while at work, right? So one of the things that I usually tell them, you actually don't need to resign to start a business. Usually, it's actually better to start a business while you have a job because your job would actually fund your business. Because when you start your business, maybe 90% or maybe even higher would fail in some ways or some form or of some. No, it's not just gonna work immediately. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So if you're gonna take a look at it, most of the business fails usually. Who starts a business fails. From the last um, article I read, it's about 80% of businesses starts fail, and out of those 20% who actually progress like 3 years or so, they close down after 5 years. So it's a little bit hard, right? So if you're thinking you'll start a business and resign immediately, then you're losing one good source of money, right? Which is your job. It gives your salary every 15 or 30 or depending on when do you get your salary, but that's something that would actually help you out, right? So one of the things that I do is I save a small amount of money every month, and let's say for example 5,000, right? So I save 5,000 every month, and on a certain period, maybe after 10 months, so that's about 50,000. So that's a good capital already. So it's a capital that I can actually lose, right? It didn't, it didn't come out of nowhere, but that's something money that it's not intended for anything but for business, right? So you can use that. But also, there are a lot of businesses that you don't really need a lot of capital, right? You only need time. And that's one thing that you need to manage is your time while working, right? But again, that's manageable. A lot of people are doing it, right? So one of the things that you really need to ask if you're starting a business, especially if you're working in the BPO, is what are the skills that I have that I can use for a business? And most often than not, you already have those skills, right? So one of the things that we actually use when we have our business is customer service. If you take a look at our online store, we're 100% in terms of chat response. And also, we are 4.9 out of 5 in terms of quality service, right? So, that's not because I trained anywhere else, but that's just because I use the training that I receive in the BPO and use that and just execute it in our business, right? So, again, there are a lot of things that you can start on. Maybe one of the first questions that you can ask yourself is, what do people already ask you for, right? So for me, it's usually tech support, right? And even training. So it's similar to this one, right? So I'm doing an info, like something to do about how to, right? Because that's where my strengths are, right? And again, what fits around your shift? Usually I can do this after shift about 2 hours and maybe on a weekend. spend about 5 hours mastering whatever I need to master, right? And I don't need a whole lot of like pay somebody to teach me this, right? So like for example, for AI, it's only $20, so that's about 1,000 something, right? Depending on the conversion rate. And I can ask that, and you have YouTube to actually just study and learn, right? The most important thing is most likely you'll not succeed, but hopefully you will on the first try, right? But it's mostly for you to learn how to do business, right? Same thing in the BPO. You don't once you're hired, we don't expect you to know exactly what you're supposed to do, right? There's new hire training, and there's upskilling, refresher, and there's a whole lot more, right? So this business is the same thing. The only problem usually happens is people start late when doing their business, right? So that's something that's like they're already retired when they try to start a business, and you don't have an opportunity to fail and learn, right? So I think that's where the disconnect is, right? So if you start early, then you'll fail more and you'll learn more and you'll be able to understand what are your strengths in business, and maybe even if business is for you, because again, I know people who are not really into business just for their career, and they're successful in their careers, and that's good, right? I think the only thing important for me is during when you retire, when you're not able to work anymore, at least you have something, right? And one of the best way for you to have that is business, right? Because business would run even after you retire, and you can even pass it on. All right. So again, you don't need to resign or retire, or maybe resign to start a business. So I'm Murfix from BPO and Beyond.
Thank you for watching or listening. To know more, visit bpoandbeyond.com, where BPO professionals are built for what's next. Until the next one.